Everyone, back to you in today's video. We've got a lot to get on with today, so we'll just get on with the video very quickly and run through the charts. Now, this is the temperature in the stratosphere, and we see that yesterday the stratospheric warming did occur. The black line here shooting up to around minus 35 indicates that we saw something like a 40 degree temperature rise, or at least a 30 to 40 degree temperature rise in the stratosphere yesterday. So we had that sudden stratospheric warming that I've been talking about since the new year. It did occur yesterday, and now we've got to wait to see what the effects of that is. Now, sudden stratospheric warming, once it propagates down into the troposphere, can start to enhance blocking over the North Pole. You have to think of high pressure as a wedge of warm air, really, sitting in the atmosphere, and that's generated over the North Pole by the warming in the stratosphere, if that warming propagates down through into the troposphere. And once you get that warm wedge of air setting up in the atmosphere over the North Pole, the effect is to start to push the cold air out into the mid-latitudes that's already up over the Arctic, of course. Now, the problem with this is that it's very uncertain what happens, because once you get these stratospheric warmings, it's kind of like throwing a hand grenade or a bomb into the atmosphere, and then you've got the computer models are trying to work out what the implications of that are, and it's almost like the computer models are trying to predict where the debris from that explosion is going to go. So you're going to get lots of swings with the computer models, lots of uncertainty, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. The computer models are swinging quite widely, but the trend is there, and these are the GFS ensembles showing that we've got a trend over the next week for temperatures to cool off quite a lot. So we're very mild at the moment, have been since the turn of the year, but it's not going to be many more days now before those temperatures start to slide, and certainly by the time we get through from around the 10th to say the 15th of January, we are looking at a period of below average temperatures. Now, that's really the first reaction to the sudden stratospheric warming. Actually, that doesn't tell us what's going to happen in terms of the blocking over the North Pole. That will be further on into January, and we see that once you get further on in January, we've got a big scatter here in the ensemble members. Some are going very mild again for the second half of January, some are showing very cold conditions through into the second half of January, and this scatter really is the model trying to piece together what's going to happen in terms of the blocking over the North Pole, where the blocking is setting up with that sudden stratospheric warming. The model is not able at this junction to work out exactly what's going to happen, and so as a result it runs through various options, various scenarios, and we get this huge scatter in the temperature ensemble. There's something like a 25 degree temperature difference there between the warmest and the coldest members of the ensemble. In terms of precipitation, well, we have got some precipitation coming up over the next few days in association with this temperature decline. Actually, once we get through to this colder period here around the middle of the month, some of these precipitation spikes are no doubt going to be generating snowfall were they to come off. Now, yesterday I had a look at the weekend weather and said there was a risk of snow. That's been downgraded a little bit today, but it's been still looking quite interesting through the weekend. This is the GFS chart for Saturday. I've got this area of high pressure up over Scandinavia. This is the first response, really, to that change in the atmosphere. And we've got the low pressure starting to moving from the Atlantic, trying to push in against that area of high pressure. This is for Saturday the 12th. Now, we have got some cold air already established across Scotland and northern England through Saturday the 12th, as indicated by this -5 isotherm. The dew points are showing that they're below freezing there over Scotland, but not the rest of the country. But cold dew points are really knocking on the door of the east coast. They're certainly not far away, and much of the continent, even by Saturday's turned very, very cold, with those dew points well below freezing. And the 528 dam line, again, this is something that we need to be within to get snowfall, is beginning to move in across the country. So we've got quite a bit of precipitation as we go through into Saturday across the country. Much of this across England and Wales would be rain, but for Scotland, probably the risk of some snowfall with that. Now, as we go through into the latter stages of Saturday, that area of low pressure will start to decline away southwards, and by the time we get through to Sunday, that low pressure is slipping away in towards parts of France and Spain and setting up over the Mediterranean. This leads us in this ridge, under this ridge of high pressure, with this east to northeasterly wind coming across the coast. But this area of low pressure developing around Iceland is a bit of a spoiler low. That looks as though it's going to push in later on Sunday and bring a brief period of somewhat less cold weather. So there's the slightly warmer upper air temperatures associated with that area of low pressure over Iceland, just coming into Scotland and Northern Ireland at the end of Sunday. But rest of the country still under very cold upper air temperatures through Sunday itself. There's the 5 to 8 line again across England and Wales, but just leaving Scotland for a very brief period. Dew points show them out they're generally below freezing on Sunday, so Sunday will be another cold day. Certainly also we're going to have a cold weekend. Whether it's particularly wintry, whether there's much snow around, it's too early to say, but certainly looks like it is going to be a cold day. There's the rain coming in, a cold weekend I should say. There's the rain coming in to Scotland and Northern Ireland associated with that area of low pressure around Iceland on Sunday afternoon. That could turn to snow as it moves in across Scotland and Northern Ireland, the higher ground in particular at risk of that. Temperatures for Sunday very cold, barely above freezing for many parts of the country, and much of Europe showing temperatures well below freezing. ECMWF for the weekend has this area of low pressure down across Iceland as we go into Saturday, but the upper air temperatures are not particularly cold. We've got the cold upper air temperatures away to the east, but this area of low pressure coming in is probably bringing rain across most of the country on this morning's ECMWF. As we go through to Sunday, that low pressure is clearing away into the Low Countries, and then we're bringing down a northerly wind. Notice we have got the area of high pressure over Scandinavia, but it's not really introducing a cold easterly wind just at that point. So the upper air temperatures actually showing that we have brought the cold -5 iceberg just a little bit closer to the east coast, but really most of the country still is outside that -5 iceberg. Will be a cooler weekend if the ECMWF comes off, but it's not desperately cold by any means. The GEM showing that again, the low pressures across Ireland as we go into Sunday, and moving further on we can see that the upper air temperatures are not particularly cold on Saturday, and then that low pressure will move away to the south of the country on Sunday, opening the doors to somewhat colder air to start to filter in from the east. But it's a pretty slow process on the ECMWF and on the GEM this morning. They're not as quick with bringing the cold air in as we see the GFS. The GFS would certainly give us a greater chance of snow over the weekend. The other two, ECMWF and GEM, probably more in way of rain. Going beyond this, in towards the middle of the month, the ECMWF then tries to re-establish this area of high pressure, and it does bring us an easterly wind. So as we move further on through these charts, we can see that yes, the ECMWF is establishing that easterly wind across the country by the middle of the month. Wednesday the 6th of January, we are in an easterly wind. It's turning very cold across the country. That easterly is still there as we go into the 17th of January, so if that's right, next week will be very cold, but it's not really supported by the ensembles. This is the ECM ensemble mean showing everything very, very slack for Thursday the 17th of January. So that shows that really in terms of the synoptics with this area of high pressure over Scandinavia next week, the ECMWF operational run, which is what we're looking at here, is not particularly well supported by its ensemble members. The GFS this morning is showing this area of low pressure that comes in across the country on Sunday, moving down the North Sea early next week. Difficult to say what sort of precipitation that would be giving because it's in cold air, so no doubt some places would be seeing the risk of snow early next week. But then as we go beyond that, the GFS then tries to establish this area of high pressure over Scandinavia and tries to bring back the Atlantic. This is a kind of battle type scenario with low pressure moving into the cold air from Scandinavia, probably producing snow. But it's so far away and there's so much uncertainty really, even as early as the end of the week and the weekend, that next week really I think we do have to leave it alone and just see what happens. Really, I think we've got to focus on the weekend, try to work out what's going on with that, and then think about next week and what could happen there later on. So that's how it's looking this morning. It certainly looks like it's going to get colder over the at the end of the week and over the weekend. Certainly colder period coming up. Could be really quite cold indeed, in fact, over the weekend across many parts. It's not severely cold, but certainly on the cold side. And in terms of snowfall, there is the chance that we could see some wintry precipitation around, but it's all very, very tentative this morning. These signals aren't as strong as they were yesterday. The models are playing with various scenarios, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. But certainly an interesting period of weather coming up, and it is going to be feeling a lot more seasonable as we get to the weekend. That's it for now. Thank you for watching.